Intuition is something that's been talked about, oh my God, in so many places. And a lot of times it is brought into business as well as the rest of your life. And yet it is this hand-wavy, uncertain thing that's out there. I'm Ravi Tangri, and this is the meh2YEAH Pro-File Show. Every Monday we're on at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Atlantic time, and what would that be, 6 o'clock Greenwich Mean Time on Mondays, where we bring you an in-depth interview with someone to really get into what enabled them to take their life from meh to yeah. How did they take that path? Or what are they bringing, such as today, a powerful tool such as intuition. Also, later in the week, we'll have our 5-minute nugget show where I'll be giving you a really quick, simple tool. Both of these will be available on Facebook Live as well as on podcast. If you want the podcast, just go to my website, Ravi Tangri, RAVITANGRI.com, and you can sign up on iTunes or Google Play or Stitcher right there. So today's show I'm excited about because I'm bringing on a really, really dear friend of mine. Mike Basch is phenomenally anchored in American business history. He was one of the founders of FedEx. He's the systems guy. He created all the amazing systems that allowed FedEx to deliver such amazingly outstanding service and build an incredible culture. I've had the pleasure of working with Mike on different projects, plus doing a lot of personal growth work over the last 20 plus years. And over the last several years, Mike has delved into the whole issue of intuition. And I know we've talked about it for years and in a lot of our conversation. And he is just about to launch a brand new book called Your Leader Within. And it is all about that, about intuition. How does it work in your life, in work, in all different areas? And just to kick it off, let me read a couple of quick quotes that are from the very beginning of the book. One is, I listened to my intuition and saved my life. Another, I listened to my intuition and created billions for our shareholders and for our society. Another one is, I listened to my intuition and I found happiness. So to help us explore the amazing world of intuition, please welcome Michael Basch. Hey, Mike.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Hello, Ravi.
Hey.
Good to hear your voice.
Great to see you. And so, Mike, tell me how your journey went from being in the core of American business to this whole realm of intuition and how that works.
Well, it's because I made some terrible choices in my life, Ravi. You know, been a multimillionaire 4 different times, and the last time I lost everything. So I had to delve into how am I making these decisions that were not good decisions. And I knew that intuition was a powerful force. In fact, as I read into it, 90% of entrepreneurs see intuition as their primary decision-making tool. 70% of company CEOs see it as their primary decision tool. So I said, okay, if I want to make better choices, I better get in touch with my own intuition. So that launched a thing 5 years ago, began the process of exploring it.
Okay. And actually, this book you finished 5 years ago, right? And you waited to publish it. And tell us a little bit about why you waited for that.
For a couple of reasons, but the biggest reason was it wasn't working for me. And when I went into my own intuition, whom I call Orion, and I said, Orion, are we ready to publish? And Orion, my intuition, said, no, Mike, you're not ready, and the book's not ready. You better wait. So I waited 4 years, and then I got back at it as things began to turn, and now I use it every day in almost every way.
And in the book, you've interviewed some pretty amazing people from all sorts of, all areas of society, right? A venture capitalist, someone who's very creative. So tell us a bit more about the people that you interviewed in depth.
Yeah, I wanted to find 2 things. People who drove their life from within. Fred Smith, the founder of FedEx, is the best example of people I've worked with that drove it within. Fred had listened to all kinds of opinions, but when it came down to making a decision, it was clear it was coming from Fred. And so I wanted to talk with people who lived that way. So I interviewed 75, eventually 80 people, and I picked 9 of them who really do live by their leader within. One, a venture capitalist, very successful, owns part owner of the Sacramento Kings, came here as an immigrant, incredibly successful. General King, who was a 3-star general in the Army and used his intuition to save lives, basically, constantly asking, should I put these people in harm's way or should I not, in Vietnam? I interviewed a world-class artist, Spar Street, who actually uses his intuition in his painting. He basically, at points, turns his painting over to his intuition. And in that particular case, he and his wife both live by intuition. They won't make a decision unless they ask and receive from their intuition.
And the very cool thing about your book is that you are not publishing a physical book. I'm just going to share the info on this as we go. This is, you buy the book online and you can turn the pages such as this and so on. But throughout it, you have videos, you have quotes that you, in addition to the regular book, you can click on these pictures and hear these people that you interviewed in their own voices, so that you can dive into it and get them. So, for example, the section about Arjun Gupta, you've got a whole number of things where you can actually jump in and hear him speak and so on. And this is throughout the book, correct?
Yes. Yeah, that was very important for me. I wanted your intuition, meaning the reader's intuition, to have a full, get the full feeling of the person. As you know, Ravi, about 8% of communication are words, and the rest is body language, voice, tones, all kinds of things, why video is more powerful than just a book of words. So I wanted the readers to hear directly from these people and hear in their tone, their words, exactly what they thought about intuition. And so that, it helps to have an electronic format that allows you to do that. Also, it allows the intuition of the reader to kind of move around the book as their energy drives them. Because when you and I talked about intuition, you said it's your energy, right? You get a feeling of lightness or heaviness when your intuition is talking versus your ego. So I wanted the readers to be able to jump around. Okay, I see this thing about Arjun Gupta. I want to jump to him and see a little more about him and then come back. So it allows people to jump around instead of reading a book in a linear fashion. You kind of jump around as your energy or your intuition drives you. Also, you'll see in the opening video a question that I'm asking you to ask your leader within. Is this book good for me or isn't it? And if your leader within says yes, great. Read it. Devour it. If your leader within says no, don't waste your time. Right. That's the power of when people truly integrate their intuition, their leader within, they'll make better decisions. They'll live a much more blissful existence. They'll be happier. They'll be able to make decisions that really work for them, not listening to other people's decisions and driving it off Google or whatever solution becomes available.
Well, and what I love about this is, I mean, you and I have talked about this. We've worked with intuition ourselves a whole lot in all of our work over the last couple of decades. But you take it out of this woo-woo land, and you really bring it. I mean, this is a venture capitalist who's made millions upon millions upon millions based on his intuition. Like you said, the general that saved lives. So it's about bringing it into real life, not just this ethereal out there that maybe you play with here and there.
That's kind of what got me back into the book after 4 years of having it on the shelf. As I read something about the science of intuition. And to my knowledge, in my previous research, I interviewed a lot of people like you and I and other people that, from all walks of life. but there was no science. So I finally found Heart Math Inc., which is you've talked about Heart Math before I even got into it. But they did some pretty in-depth research. And that research shows that intuition comes in three forms. First, I'll give you my terms because their terms are more technical and more scientific. Past intuition. In other words, you see something today that reminds you of a pattern from the past. And so you have an immediate reaction to that, and that's an intuitive reaction. A nurse walks into a hospital room, knows exactly what to do without even reading the chart because she's been there so many times before. She has a sense of it. Her intuition feeds it to her. So that's past intuition. Present intuition is kind of finely tuned energetic sensing ability. Somebody who can know an earthquake is coming because they're picking up subtle energy transfers from the earth, or a squirrel that goes after nuts and much greater commitment because a tough winter is coming, that kind of thing. So that's an energetic thing, and there's a way to scientifically explain both of those. The third intuition, which is what I call future intuition, the ability to know the future before it arrives. Now, I saw that in Fred Smith. No matter how badly things were going in the beginning, on the verge of bankruptcy, he still saw the need to change the law in Congress because we're going to have full airplanes and we needed bigger airplanes. And so he saw that clearly in his mind. And that's the intuition that the entrepreneur uses, the business, because they can go into the future, get a sense of it, and then intuit the result. And this is what they were able to scientifically prove, that the heart, interestingly enough, and I won't go into the detail, so I don't think we have enough time to detail the research, but it's available by a link in my book. They actually found that people could see a future event before it happened, 6 seconds, because it was a laboratory experiment. And the heart would pick up that seeing first. That would communicate to the frontal cortex, and the frontal cortex would communicate to the rest of the body. And they literally showed that the human system could pick up an event before it happened. Now, you can project that out into the future. Obviously, scientifically, there are too many variables beyond the laboratory to do that, at least today. But they were found through energetic sensors, heart monitors, brain monitors, skin conductivity, etc., and then put people in a situation where they would have to predict an event before it happened, and found that they could do it with great reliability, far beyond the probability of that event happening. Right. Now, most people that I talked to, Ravi, knew that. People get a sense that that's possible. Some people had psychic events as children, but it was driven out of them as they grew older. So people knew it, but now scientifically they're showing that actually there is something about our ability. Now they're trying to explain that scientifically as to why or how that occurs, and that's beyond my ability to understand. Yeah. You as a physicist would know how to interpret that. I know.
Well, I mean, there's actually a lot in quantum physics that opens the door to understanding that, but you got to let go of all the deterministic, everything is logical and rational and all the brain dead stuff you learn in physics in high school. That's so simple.
Exactly.
No, that's not the world that we're playing in here. But
they talk about a quantum holograph, and that's how the future intuition becomes available. So again, probably not a subject we want to get into today.
Practically, we've both played with it in our work, and we know, and you hear people say that when they made a bad decision, they knew, almost everyone will say they knew it was not the right thing to do, whether it's a business decision or a relationship. Everyone says that. So everyone has it. They just haven't learned to trust it. And one of the things I like that you talked about is that if you want to grow your intuition, it's just like any muscle. You must routinely practice it. So tell me a bit about that.
Yes. Well, it was interesting that one of the people I interviewed, Larry Face, who was a stockbroker in New York, and he'd go into his office every day, and it was a a tall building. Obviously, there's 6 elevators, and he would just for fun stand in front of the elevator that would open its doors first. And in the beginning, he got it roughly 1 out of 6 times, which is what you'd expect. So he'd do it 6 days in a row and get maybe 1 right. But over the next 9 months, he played with it and played with it to the point where he got a 90% right. Then he backed off of that. He practiced it every day, that one thing, backed off it, and he found after a couple of months it had gone back to 1 out of 6. So it is something you have to practice. Everybody I spoke with that uses it routinely to make decisions, practice it every day, in some cases for every decision they make. Now, a couple of things that were interesting, Ravi, when it came to 2 places where people lost their intuition, I asked several children. In fact, I interviewed a couple in depth. Are children more intuitive than adults? And they all said the same thing. Yes, of course. Well, why is that? And then so because children don't get all hung up in their intellect. And I'm paraphrasing here. The other area that I asked were women. Women were more intuitive generally than men, but trusted it far less.
That's interesting. That's powerful.
Sure. Yeah, it is very powerful. Many of the women, meaning 4 or 5 of the women I interviewed, actually had psychic experiences as children. But when they went to their parents or their mother about it, it was unacceptable. You're dreaming. Stop thinking that way. And it was driven out of them. So as a result of that, they, I think, far more intuitive as children, but it was driven out. The same way men that I interviewed, and what I found is that to get in touch with your intuition, you really have to get in touch with your feelings as well. And women, although they were more intuitive as children, it was driven out of them. Men were more feeling-oriented as children, myself included, but it was driven out of me as a young child. It wasn't good to cry. It wasn't good to feel emotion. It wasn't manly to feel emotion. So it's driven out of us. So in order to get in touch with your intuition, you have to integrate those 2 parts of yourselves, your feeling side and your intuitive side.
It's something I'm curious about when you say this is there's another statistic that says that kids before the age of 5, like some ridiculously high number, 85, 95% of them are creative. And yet our left brain school system, by the time they come out the other end in grade 12, you get 3% that are creative. And so I'm curious there is what's the correlation between the creativity and the intuition? Both of them get drilled out of you, both through socialization, but also through this left brain system we've got for school, which does not honor, they're doing more to honor those 7 kinds of smart now. They get kids to draw and this, but they don't bring into account understanding holistically or intuitively at all in the programming.
That's exactly right. And, you look at intuition and creativity, they go hand in hand, let's face it. I mean, Einstein said your imagination is far more important because that gives you an intuitive direction on what to explore. And that's how he developed the theory of relativity. On a train that was passing another train, and he saw the relative speed that was going by. And that he used his imagination to create that. So intuition, Spar Street, the artist that I interviewed, incredible artist. Ted Turner is one of his collectors, and he's got just a number of very, very famous collectors. He's a great artist. And he got an intuitive hit 20 years ago. And it said, basically, develop a world peace symbol. And so he went ahead and did it. He called, after he got into it, he called the Nobel Peace Prize people and said, here I'm going to develop this peace symbol. I would like you to consider it as a symbol for your work. And they said, well, we would like to, but we don't have the budget. But he went ahead anyway. His intuition told him to go ahead. He spent 1.5 years developing it, lost hundreds of thousands of dollars in other art that he could have been selling, but he developed it. About the time I wrote the book the first time, 5 years ago, about November of that time, he got a call from the Nobel Peace Prize people, and they're going to erect 50 of these symbols in 50 cities across the world, anywhere from 20 to 50 feet high. Now, his intuition gave him that direction, and he followed it, even sometimes at great expense. And that's true of almost all the people that I interviewed. Fred Smith, another example. I mean, all the experts said you couldn't possibly do what he said he wanted to do. Yet he had the foresight and the intuition to go ahead with that and make it happen.
So something else I want to touch on, there's a section you have that I think it says a huge amount, whether you're religious or spiritual, there's a lot of people engage in different forms of prayer, right? For some, prayer is asking, for some, prayer is being grateful for already having what you want in your life. But the section you said is prayer is asking, intuition is listening. And I think that is so incredibly powerful, that the fact that people will pray, but then they don't listen intuitively for where to go, what to do.
That's exactly right. I mean, your intuition has all the answers you'll ever need. And when you pray, you know, and people had varying ideas about what intuition is, where it comes from, and so forth. Most would consider it a greater input than your ego. Some considered a direct relationship with God. The general that I spoke about was Mormon. And for him, it was he would pray, he would ask a question, and his intuition would give him an answer. And he listened to that answer. And I asked him, I said, Jim, do you meditate? He said, yes. And I said, when? He said, all day long. He said, when we were in Vietnam and I had to make decisions very quickly, he said, sometimes in the face of orders I was getting from above, I would reverse those. I would ask, I would get an answer, and I would take action on the answer. And he said that kept a lot of people alive in the situation we were in.
That's, I think, is a key thing. The meditation is getting out of the head chatter so you can actually hear your intuition. And
yeah, that was another reason, Ravi, why I wrote the book in the format I did. There's 5 or 6 meditations, some video, some audio, where you can listen, and a guided meditation, obviously they're all forms of meditation, but a guided meditation often helps you get out of the monkey mind or the ego and truly open up your mind for an intuitive answer.
So, Mike, your book is almost ready to come out. Do you have any information or a link that people can go to access it, or something that they can share, that you can share that might help them?
Yeah, what I have at this point is a link to the introduction. And then by the time they'll read the introduction, the book will be complete towards the end of this week, actually. So, but yeah, I have a link that we can put on your, however you get links out to people, that I sent you earlier. So you could send them that link. Okay. And the introduction really gives them a feel for the book as a whole, and a little bit about the video and the audio, and at least one of the profiles in depth.
Okay. So I will, I'll put that in the comments of this section, so that people can access that. Then you will have information on there on where they can access the full book, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. So let me ask you, what is, you and I always talk about purpose and the deeper intention behind things. What is your hope for this? What is it that's giving you the fire in the belly to say, this is, I want to put this work out there? What is your driving passion behind this, that you would like to see moving forward?
Great question. And it's the feeling you get when you truly connect with that part of yourself, or that God, or that greater being, that greater power. The feeling you get of certainty, clarity, commitment, those things that are necessary to make great decisions in your life, and then fulfill those decisions by taking action that you're clear and confident and committed to do. And so that's what the driving passion is. When I asked Orion, what's our purpose here, which I did, he said, to help people like you, Mike, get in touch with that part of yourself that has the voice that knows the way, the voice that can give you direction in your life like no other way to see direction in your life, the voice that can tell you whether a book is worth reading, the voice that can tell you what to wear, the voice that can tell you who to partner with, the voice that can tell you what job to take. And that, what I've found over the 5 years, and particularly the last year, moved to Florida, you see the background in the back, that's all possible because of getting in touch with Orion, who's my leader within. It's an incredible feeling.
And the thing is that when you get to intuition, the things that you actually accomplish are things you never could have working logically, linearly, rationally.
Exactly.
Bring that intuitive guidance into play to take advantage of timing and synchronicities.
Yeah. When I went back in my life as part of the research, I was highly creative as a child. I was highly creative in the beginning of my career. But because of setbacks and so forth, I lost confidence in that creativity, that intuitive guide. Now I've got it back, and it's changed my life. It's brought me back to life again. Makes life exciting.
Yeah. Well,
Fun.
and I know, from working with you, you talk about you had it so much when you were young, but there are times, that we always have them. You and I have worked intuitively in a lot of the projects we've worked on.
Yes, we have. Yeah.
Sort of known. And those are the times now, it's how do you amplify?
Yes, right on.
So, Mike, I really, truly want to thank you for this. This is absolutely delightful. I can't wait to see the full book. And I love the way that you've built in the multimedia. I like the being able to bring in the voices of the people who are, who you've interviewed. It's great to read interviews, but to actually hear them and to bring in the videos and all those other things, I think that's a phenomenal resource. What will be the price of the book once it's available in a week or so?
It'll be $19.95.
Mm-hmm.
But then I followed one of your suggestions, Ravi. For those people who pass it on to their friends, they can offer their friends a $5 coupon to get the book for actually $14.95.
Excellent.
So if you offer it to these friends that are listening to your show here, you can offer them the $5 coupon.
Great. So as soon as we have that, we'll post that again on this link as well.
Terrific.
Good. So I'm excited too, Mike. Going to get to see you next week. It's been way too long.
Me too, Ravi. I can't wait to see you.
It's going to be fun to get down there by the water. Yeah. And on Wednesday, folks, I'm going to have a really extra special nugget show. Again, 5 minutes, a really powerful tool, but this is going to be a really special show for you. So stay tuned. It'll be right here on Facebook Live as well on the YouTube channel and the podcast. Once again, if you want to get these shows, the podcasts, you can get them on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, at my website, ravitangri.com, RAVITANGRI.com. You can also get them through my blog. The podcast comes through the blog as well, and sign it so you get them all in your email. Of course, they're here on Facebook Live, on my YouTube channel, and on LinkedIn. So have yourselves an amazing, this is a big holiday weekend in North America. Canada Day was a couple of days ago for us, July 4th tomorrow. And we will see you on Wednesday with that extra special nugget show. Have an amazing week.